everyone! Today I'll be showing you how to crochet this lovely little dream catcher. It's a quick, easy, and beginner-friendly project, and it'll take you no time at all to whip up. So let's get started. So what you will need would be some yarn in 3 different colors, or you could choose 1 or 2 as you'd please. I'm using this lovely cotton bamboo yarn from the Lion brand collection. This is weight 3 yarn, but you're welcome to use weight 3 or weight 4 yarn. I used weight 4, which is medium yarn here for this particular dream catcher, and also a 6mm hook. If you use thinner yarns, your dream catcher will turn out a little smaller. If you use thicker yarns, it'll be a little larger. So it's pretty flexible as to what you choose. You will also need scissors and, as I mentioned earlier, that 6mm crochet hook and 3 beads to add to your tassels. To begin, we're going to work on the very center of the dream catcher and work our way outwards. I'm choosing to start with pink, but you can choose whichever color makes you happy. And to begin, you can either start with a magic ring, or I like this easy method, which is a chain. All you have to do is start with 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Insert your hook into the very first chain you made and slip stitch to join. That creates a small little loop here, so that acts as a magic ring. Now next you're going to chain 1, and inside this little circle you've just made, you're going to insert 6 puff stitches. Here's how to do a puff stitch. Yarn over, insert your hook into the circle, pull out 1, yarn over, insert your hook into the circle, pull out another loop, yarn over, insert your hook into the circle, pull out a 3rd loop. As you do that, with all the yarn overs and the pulling out, you're going to find yourself with 7 loops on your hook. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So for this last part, you're going to yarn over and then pull through all 7 of those loops and then chain to close it up. We're going to do that again 5 more times around. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up 1, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a 2nd time, yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a 3rd time, yarn over, pull through all of those loops, and chain to close your puff. That's puff number 2. Let's do number 3. Yarn over, insert your hook, pull up 1, yarn over, insert, pull up another, yarn over, insert, pull up a 3rd, and now yarn over, go through all of those loops, and chain 1 to close. Oops, I pulled up an extra loop there. Okay, and then continue on by adding more puff stitches. All right, so at the end you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 puffs. You're going to finish this round by inserting your hook into the very first chain that you made for your puff stitch. Not the starting chain we made when we began the round, but in the chain of the first puff stitch. Okay, So that's this one right here. And I'm gonna pull it in like so. And that's that for round 1. For round 2, grab the next color you'd like to add. And what you're going to do is change it by attaching it here. You're going to chain 1 to start the round. And after you chain 1, you're going to insert a single crochet in each of the, on top of each puff stitch. And then you're going to increase, that means 2 single crochets, between each puff stitch in the gaps. So I'll show you how that's done. First, insert a single crochet on top of the puff stitch. That's 1. And then in the gap between the 2 puffs, you're going to insert 2. So there's 1 and 2 in that same gap. Then insert 1 on top of the puff stitch. And then 2 in the gap. You might have to pull on your stitches a little bit to see where that gap is. There we go. And I was carrying the yarn along because I didn't want to weave in my ends, spend too much work weaving in my ends. So it's easy to just carry it along here when you change colors and snip it off after you get to a certain point. And that leaves for a way to hide your yarn end. So I'm going to keep going. 1 single crochet on top of the puff stitch, 2 single crochets between the puff stitches, excuse me. 1 single crochet on top of the puff, and 2 between the puffs. Alright, when you reach the very end of this round, you're going to join by doing a slip stitch on the very first single crochet. So here I'm going to insert my slip stitch to join, and that concludes round 2. For round 3, grab your next color. I'm choosing green for this one. You're going to chain 1 to start, and we're going to continue with some puff stitches here. So I'm going to insert a puff in each of the stitches around. So that's insert your puff into the very first stitch. Remember, you're going to insert your hook and pull up 3 times. And then you're going to yarn over and pull through all of those 7 loops and chain to close. So that's 1. I'm going to go in that next one and insert, insert, insert into that same stitch, pull up, and go through all of those loops. Chain to close. As you can see, I'm carrying my yarn end here so that I can naturally weave it in as I work. the puffs so far. I'm gonna snip off my yarn ends now. And continue working by inserting puffs in each of those single crochets. Alright, when you get to the very end of making all of your puff stitches, you're going to insert your hook into that very first puff stitch and make a slip stitch to join. Here we are. And that's the end of round number 3. Finally, you're going to do round 4 with the last set of colors. I'm choosing to use the same color I did for round 2. So you're going to chain 1 to begin, and then you're going to single crochet on the top of each puff stitch and in each gap between the stitches. So I'm going to single crochet in the top of the first puff and then between the puffs. On top of the next puff, and then between the puffs. On top of the next puff, and between the puffs. And you're going to work in this way all the way around. As you can see, I am carrying the yarn ends, so you'll see them poking out here a little bit. And that's just about the end of them, so I'm going to snip them off. And continue around between the puffs, on top of the puffs, between, on top, when you get to the very end, what you're going to do is insert a slip stitch into the very first single crochet that you made, and that will allow you to join the round. There we are. And now we're going to create the little handle on top, which is done with some chains. I'm going to chain 10. 1, 2, 3, oops. And feel free to chain as many as you'd like. If you want a longer handle, you could chain more than 10. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And after you chain the amount you want, slip stitch into that same stitch. And you're going to fasten off with a tail and weave in those ends. So here you've got the handle, and just weave in your ends. And next I'll show you how to create the little tassels that would go on the bottom of your dream catcher. Alright, so for the tassels, what you're going to do is figure out which color you'd like to make your tassels and find out how long you'd like them to be. So For example, I found this little, I have this personal pep talk for teachers card, and I'd like my tassels to be just a tad shorter than this, which will make this perfect. So I'm going to use this as a way of wrapping my yarns around. So you'll want to find an object that's just a little longer than how long you want your tassels to be. And I'm going to wrap around, let's say I did 10 times for these tassels and they look nice and thick here. I think I'm going to do some thinner tassels, so I'll go with 8 times. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I'm going to snip off this bottom here and then snip off these edges, and that will give me 8 strands like so. Then you're going to take another strand of the same color. Doesn't matter, well, it's gotta be, I'd say longer, slightly longer than these tassels to make it easier to tie on. So I'm just gonna loop it around the center like you saw. Loop it around the center and pull those tassels down. And here I'm going to add in a bead. So I have this wooden bead here, and what I'm going to do is pull through my yarn ends like so, and that will hold it in place for now. Okay. And I'd want to tie my tassels as well to secure the yarn ends. So let me cut another strip. You want this one around the same length as your tassels. Put it under. And I'm just going to do a double knot here. Make sure you've got a little bit of space. Double knot, tie that real tight, and as you can see, when you tie it, you're going to have this kind of poking out. So what I like to do is just insert a crochet hook into this knot and kind of pull this unruly one in so that it doesn't pop out or look very obnoxiously different from the rest of them. There we go. So that's that, and now I've got this top part, and I'm just going to attach it to the bottom of my Dreamcatcher. So I'm going to find where I want that to be. I'd like it to be around here, and I'll pull in one of my loops. And I will get the other one, tie it behind. Okay. Yep, that looks about right. So tie it tightly. Gonna do a double knot, maybe a triple knot, just to be sure. After knotting, I'm going to just cut off my ends, and there is my first tassel. And for this first one, as you can see, I've got some different lengths on the bottom, so I'll want to trim that to make that look nice and even. You can attach all of your tassels first and then trim at the very end. I like to do that to make sure they're all even and just get it done in once. So we'll be back after I get those other 2 tassels in. So as you can see, I have finished adding in the other 2 tassels on my Dreamcatcher, and after you do that, just trim the ends with scissors to make them nice and even, and your Dreamcatcher will be all done and ready for hanging. Thanks so much for watching my tutorial today. Hope you enjoyed this project and happy crafting. Bye now!